Okay, here's the truth. Hours before WWE Survivor Series happened, I put out a tweet that I genuinely thought I was right. And honestly, I have every reason to believe I was right because WWE is not known for really introducing new characters or changes to characters and then immediately giving them a title. Whether it was the Vince McMahon era or Triple H era, I think everybody kind of knows that, right? However, I put out this tweet. I know WWE won't do this because they are cowards, but Shinsuke Nakamura should win the US title tonight at Survivor Series. Now, in just a moment, we're going to take a look at those replies because I did get exposed, but I want to talk about this because I think it is actually quite funny and I'm actually really happy. I don't think people understand why I'm happy and I kind of want to explain that because Shinsuke Nakamura is somebody who, if you compare his WWE run to the New Japan run, I think it is safe to say that Shinsuke Nakamura is clearly not the same. However, I have been very, very happy to see that Shinsuke Nakamura is being put in the spotlight a little bit because, well, to be fair, I don't think Shinsuke is going to be in the WWE or wrestling much longer. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at some of these responses. We're going to respond to these tweets. Some of them are just downright mean, and some of them do have foul language, so just kind of keep that in mind prior. But with that being said, let's just take a look. Okay, so Grim from Grimm's Toy Show, he hit me with the GIF, you know, and I get it, man. I get it because unfortunately I was wrong, right? Just a WWE fan says, respect for leaving this up. All that's left is an apology. And I simply just ask for what? We could read the response. I don't know. You don't have to apologize for shit. You were just loud and wrong. True. Exactly this. So never mind on the apology. But yeah, bro was just unequivocally wrong. Yes, I was unequivocally wrong. Billy TKO says they did it, boy. And Zeus says, yeah, like he's going to look like a goof if he loses again because it's happened so often, which is true. That was actually my biggest thing. My biggest concern was with Shinsuke getting this like repackage. I was very, very, like, if I could be honest, I was very scared that they were going to repackage Shinsuke Nakamura, give him this darker theme, new theme music, a different look, and then only for him to just look weak because Shinsuke Nakamura tends to look weak. In WWE, you know, it's funny. When Shinsuke was in NXT, he was looked like this beast. When he comes to the main roster, it wasn't necessarily the case. And for me, WrestleMania 34 always stands out as a good example of this. But nonetheless, I digress. Okay, so we still have a couple more responses. Well, we have quite a few. JM Beer says, I love LA Knight, but Shinsuke needs a program or this repackage is a waste of time, which was exactly my thought, right? Like he needed a program and that's really what matters. Alexander the Great drops a eye emoji. Okay, cool. Balin Howe says they pulled the trigger. Yes, I'm aware of that. Hev says Shinsuke Darkamura. Ha ha ha. Nice, Jeff. Hector says he won. Juan Lopez says, honestly, I kind of agree. You can't debut a new character for yourself only to lose a big match. Exactly, right? This post did not age well. I've seen a lot of those, right? This post did not age well. Yeah, no, that's for me, it's a good thing. I'm glad it didn't age well because again, I'm satisfied with the fact that Shinsuke Nakamura actually won. If Shinsuke would have lost, I would have just looked right. But the point is, I don't want to be right. I want to be wrong in situations like that. It's a big deal to me. I think when characters get reintroduced, they got to look strong. I was shocked that he actually beat LA Knight clean, but still, you know, the point was, I didn't want it to age well. Ragnarok says, so, this aged well, this aged badly. Well, Shinsuke won. This didn't age well. I absolutely agree. This aged well. This did not age well. Facts. It's time. I think he might actually win. LA Knight is similar to a Stone Cold where you don't need long titles and is better chasing. I do agree with that. Janice says they called your bluff. Deshaun says they aren't cowards. Isaiah says, who's going to tell him? Barry says, I couldn't agree more. They finally put him back on the pedestal after... okay, whatever. I can't read. Okay, so T Great says he will. You don't just beat Andrade that strongly and not win, which is a big thing. Let's talk about Andrade and let's talk about Carmelo. Because the biggest argument here as well, Carmelo and Andrade have been kind of carrying like that mid-card, on SmackDown, and like they didn't win the US title, but LA Knight kept retaining, and then Shinsuke. So here's the thing. You don't need to rush for Andrade or Carmelo Hayes. You don't need to rush and put them right away. They still have some years left. I think there's an argument that could be made that Andrade and Carmelo will be around for a little bit. And I also agree that there's probably bigger plans for them. I also think for Shinsuke Nakamura, one thing that needs to be talked about here is Shinsuke doesn't need to have a long reign, but I also think if he has a decently long reign, you could then create a big baby face. So who's going to be that baby face on SmackDown that takes the belt off Shinsuke? I don't know. But I also want to point out, I think Jacob Fatu should be United States champion. And I know a lot of people aren't having that conversation, but Jacob Fatu should definitely be holding that belt. So eventually there's a lot of people that should be holding the belt. Eventually we got to get to the point where those guys do. This doesn't hurt Shinsuke and it doesn't hurt WWE. Yeah, a lot more. This aged well. I see what you did there. I see what you did. Just tons of ha ha ha, funny coward. People call it a cringe post. I don't really care. Age poorly. You know, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, we could keep reading these responses and people will say that I'm wrong. My joke of a response is that, hey, WWE just saw the tweet and they agree with me. They listen to Ango. But really, if you think about it, WWE needs to spice up the US title division. And that's really what it is. LA Knight is a good champion, but LA Knight is not the best wrestler in my opinion. And I'm not saying Shinsuke is the best wrestler either. Shinsuke is obviously not the same Shinsuke in terms of performance, the way he was in New Japan versus WWE. But we do got to get to the point where the US title isn't being held and then you're not creating like really big stories for it. And I think sometimes it's okay to press the reset button. And that's essentially what it is. Like, I just wanted them to press the reset button. I like LA Knight a lot. I would love to see LA Knight get involved in the world title scene at some point. I think he could be really, really good if he were to go to WWE Raw and get involved in the World Heavyweight Championship at some point. The thing is, there's just so many people that are ready for titles, and there's not enough titles for everybody. You got to keep things fresh. You got to press the reset button every once in a while. And most importantly, what you really have to do is you got to have people like, this is the first pay-per-view in a long time where both mid-card titles were defended. Obviously, Braun Breaker wasn't dropping the IC title. Cody's not on the card. You got to have somebody or some sort of change or some sort of shock value. And you know, I feel like if Shinsuke didn't win, everybody would have been like, it's just predictable. It's just predictable. But the fact that he won is actually making it a little bit unpredictable. And as far as LA Knight goes, there's a million things you could do with him. And I think if you look at this Bloodline storyline, he could get involved there. I think if you want to move him to Raw, you can absolutely do that. The point that I'm making is I am totally fine being exposed for this take. And I think it's actually a good thing that I was, because I think WWE will be a lot better for it. And I think that's one of the cool things about tweeting and putting out videos is like, I don't care to be right or wrong. I care to see things happen. I care to see change. And I'm happy to see that we finally got change in the US title picture. Otherwise, LA Knight would have been holding that belt for a long time, just like Logan Paul, and we don't necessarily need that. So yeah, it is what it is.